Looking for a cosmic adventure like no other? ZATSWAN, Multiversal Guardian is a high-stakes comic book journey through the multiverse with stunning art and an unforgettable hero. Get your copy today in ebook and paperback formats. Link in the description.
So nobody cares about Hal Jordan and nobody cares about Hawkman. Well, not exactly. The only people who do are these die-hard comic readers, but they're like literally out of step with the rest of the world, and I've known that for decades at this point. Um, because like I would be in some of these comic book groups, but I always felt that like I was in a Twilight Zone or something like that. But I do want to get more into that. I'm Neil Allen, the creator of this graphic novel here, ZATSWAN Multiversal Guardian, which you can purchase on Amazon.com. The link is in the description. It's a cosmic fantasy graphic novel that you can pick up digitally for only $2.99, and it's a full-size 130-page graphic novel. I hope you check that out. So what got me making these points and got me thinking about this is that the actress who is playing Hawkgirl in this upcoming Superman movie, which will be releasing in a matter of days, was talking about her character. She was being interviewed, and it's so fascinating to me that the topic of discussion when discussing her character Hawkgirl goes right to Green Lantern John Stewart. Let me actually read you the quote. They're talking about Hawkgirl and John Stewart's romance from Justice League Unlimited, and she says, "I really love the idea, and that's why I love Lois and Clark's story of the alien and human love story. There's just something so romantic about that to me. It's like we shouldn't, but we should, but we shouldn't." And that really got my heart as a kid. It broke my heart when she eventually abandoned the team. The betrayal is crazy. But my love for the character that Maria brought to the show, it definitely transferred to this version, which is not Shiera, she's Kendra, but she has all the memories of her past life. So I'm definitely a huge fan of her story, and I can't wait to see how that evolves, or if there even is a romantic aspect, because I'm a romantic at heart for sure. So, this is beyond just anecdotal stuff. You really have the actress of the show, of this upcoming movie, which will feature Hawkgirl. And when she's being interviewed, what comes up? It's the romance that Hawkgirl had with John Stewart on Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. Now, detractors will always say this stuff like, "This is from a 20-year-old show, which doesn't matter anymore, and it only appeared in this show," trying to downplay like the massive impact that this relationship had. And I always again knew that you're living in the Twilight Zone. What people really don't care about is they don't care about whatever you're interested in, which usually that's a couple things: Hal Jordan or Hawkman, or something like that, or they just hate the idea of this interracial romance, and they just try to act like it should be okay. It made its way into Justice League, which I'm sure they didn't like, but contain it, like just keep it there, never show that ever again. That is the most stupid and boneheaded thing. But the disappointing thing about this is that's actually the path that DC Comics chose up until like very, very, very recently. They had this weird history where they have successes with like black characters, and I think people like this narrative that, oh, those characters don't sell, or we don't want to do anything with them because it wouldn't work. I think people are comfortable with that narrative, but here's the interesting thing, and the upsetting thing that I hope this does change: when they do find something that works really well, a lot of these people will ignore it, downplay it, or they will act like, or they won't support it. I could give you a couple big examples, like what we're talking about right now, Green Lantern and Hawkgirl, which we'll come back to. But first, I want to swing around to Static Shock. I've never in my life heard of a cartoon show, other than this instance. Maybe there are some, but this is very uncommon. I've never heard of a show, especially of the sort that Static Shock is, where it's this action superhero cartoon show, that ran successfully for 4 seasons on a major network, Kids WB, and there's like literally no merchandise for it. None. Zilch. I've never heard of that happening except for this superhero cartoon show that starred a black kid. There's one example. Now, I know not all the same people are like making all these decisions, but I think it's a pervasive thought process that some have had. Thought processes, biases, things like that, that have like kind of caused this sort of thinking to happen. And then you have Green Lantern John Stewart, who popularized Green Lantern on television in the early 2000s. This was so weird to me. So when John Stewart popularizes Green Lantern, what do these other guys writing the comics do? They suddenly take a huge interest in, Green Lantern, put things in super high gear, resurrecting Hal Jordan, one of the white incarnations of Green Lantern. They make him an ultra major player in their comics like they had never ever done before, and then they proceed to sideline John Stewart in the comics for like over a decade, around a decade, maybe a little over a decade. There's another weird example. And people want to say stuff like, oh, these characters don't sell, like if we did that it wouldn't work. Well, when you get these examples that do work, what do these people do? They like what I said. They don't support them. They let them burn out. They sideline them. They don't appreciate what they have. Sidelining John Stewart and first of all, sidelining John Stewart himself and his relationship with Hawkgirl was quite possibly the most stupid, boneheaded thing that DC ever has done within like recentish history. It culminated in that horrible Green Lantern movie that lost like tens of millions of dollars. Complete disaster. And some will say like, well, the Hal Jordan, when they resurrected Hal Jordan, they sold all these comics and made all this money. Whatever they made there, whatever gains they had there, was completely negated by the losses, the catastrophic losses of that horrible film. And that was like one example of it. Green Lantern had never come close to getting a movie before. It's like suddenly when this black character, makes Green Lantern popular, suddenly, oh, we got to bring back the white one and sideline this black one. That happened like all around the same time. Like literally when Jon Stewart started really like getting popular on television, suddenly, they want to bring back Hal Jordan, sideline Jon Stewart in the comics, and make this massive push for Hal Jordan, which of course culminates in that film. Is that coincidence? We can't say completely for sure, but honestly, I choose not to think so. I choose not to think so. I think that was intentional, what happened there. I think some people had a problem with Jon Stewart being recognized and thought of as a Green Lantern, and then that galvanized them to want to correct that and suddenly take a massive interest in Hal Jordan. I could be wrong, but I think it's clear to see there's definitely reason to think that. And I think people don't really realize what they had. You're having trouble like getting other people interested in your comics, DC. And okay, you have the readers that you have, but it's like this is an ongoing thing. Nobody else really cares about your stuff. had you actually really invested in John Stewart, had you actually gone all the way with John Stewart and Hawkgirl, you have inroads to a whole new demographic there. A demographic that does not trust you because of actions like this. It's like, why should they invest in your stuff when the characters they're interested in, if even if they do get success, they get screwed over anyway. Like they get sidelined, and you know the characters can't. They don't have the capacity to go all the way. Like you don't give them the ball and let them run with it. Like you keep the Green Lantern and Hawkgirl relationship completely off the table. I remember a Green Lantern writer around 2020, was it? It was either 2020 or 2021. Jeffrey Thorne literally said that Green Lantern and Hawkgirl was not allowed to do in the comics. Something has changed very recently, which is good, but you're making all these stupid boneheaded decisions to appeal to your, I kind of get it, to appeal to your comic reading audience, but the thing is, your comic reading audience is in a twilight zone where only they're in it. I wanted to bring out this example with, the actress saying these things because it just goes to show that again. Whenever John Stewart does anything, there's always like big pushback um, with him. If he gets in a romantic relationship with Hawkgirl, people will push back on him for that. They'll push back on him just for existing. If he, there's always like something like that. But what I think this goes to show is that, first of all, let's stick with the Hawkgirl thing. Green Lantern and Hawkgirl go together like peanut butter and jelly. You try snuffing them out, you try like keeping them apart. it, it's kind of funny because it kind of goes along with sort of the hot girl story. You try all these things to keep them apart from each other for even decades, they're just going to come right back to each other. Green Lantern and Hawkgirl is one of the great top, I'm talking very top, maybe top 3 4 romances of DC Comics and DC entertainment in general. A lot of people aren't going to think so, but again, you're on some other kind of planet, and these people, they don't appreciate what they have. You have a interracial relationship that was accepted, that people loved. You made it. You know what I mean? I admit it's not always easy to get people behind something like that. Well, it's not easy to get some people behind anything, really. DC throws a lot of stuff at the wall, and most of it doesn't stick. They had a hit there that actually really worked for them, and what did they do? Try to stomp it out as hard as they can, not allow that, not reference it. If that was a monoracial white relationship, and maybe even if it was a monoracial black relationship, they would have celebrated that. They would have integrated that, no pun intended, into their comics. It wouldn't have taken them 20 years. Not something that loved, not something that accepted. So what's so fascinating to me about this is like the whole, sorry about that, the whole world, like, I know I'm being a little bit dramatic saying that, but I hope I can make the point. The whole world like loves and accepts Green Lantern and Hawkgirl, except like these comic people and these people who at the time were making the comics. They hated it. But it's a perfect thing that goes to illustrate how they're like on a different planet or in a twilight zone. They're out of, ultimately, I guess a way of saying is they're out of touch. And a lot of the things I'm going to say are probably going to be upsetting to some people, I think, just to hear that. But it goes back to what I said. Nobody cares about Hal Jordan. Nobody cares about Hawkman. um they do, those readers do, but those readers, like, they are the only ones who do. No matter how much they try to stomp out John Stewart or John Stewart and Hawkgirl, there is a cosmic truth. It's just not going to work. People, you can try to downplay how much people love that or how much impact it had, but I think just this actress here talking about that and any discussion involving Hawkgirl defaulting to her romance to John Stewart just goes to show that you're out of touch. You're like out of sync with what's actually going on in reality and with people and their sentiments. And you may not like that and everything, but it doesn't matter. What is doesn't really care too much about your feelings or anything like that. So I think putting the kibosh on John Stewart and Hawkgirl was quite possibly the single most dumbest, boneheaded thing DC has done, because of why. And yes, I'm taking all these other things about distribution and all these other things into account too when I say that. You actually literally had inroads to new audiences that you're trying hard, so hard to get. A lot of your efforts don't work because it's not just that you did Green Lantern and Hawkgirl, though that is important. It's not just that they did that, it's they did it and it was good and it was accepted. And when you have that, you need to lean into it. Otherwise, you're going to end up with just these dwindling fans that you have. When you actually have a success that's bringing in different sorts of readers who otherwise wouldn't pay your or viewers who otherwise wouldn't pay your stuff any mind. Instead, you're telling them that they're wrong, that you're not going to do what they like, and like take that someplace else, or oh, maybe that happened in the cartoon show, but it's just going to stay in that cartoon show. And it's just so fascinating to me that like that's what I said. No matter what they do, they're not going to. No matter what some fans say is, oh, that was so long ago. If they don't understand the impact, well, they don't. They don't want to. They don't want to admit the impact that a character like John Stewart, the Green Lantern, has had, and his interracial romance with Hawkgirl. They don't want to admit the impact, but that really mattered to people, and those people aren't always present, in the debates about this stuff and the discussion, but they're still there. This actress kind of shows that. When you think about Hawkgirl, what do you think about? A lot of they don't think about Hawkman. They think about Green Lantern. When you think about Green Lantern, what do people think about? A lot of them don't think about Hal Jordan. They think about John Stewart. Did it happen in a cartoon show 20 something years ago? Apparently, but apparently that doesn't matter. People are still, that interpretation made a lot of difference, mattered a lot to people. And I think ignoring things like that just goes to show how out of touch, DC Comics has been. Hopefully is still not, but may still be, I'm sure, and I don't exaggerate anything I'm saying when I say that that's the single stupidest thing that you did, and it culminated again in that Green Lantern film, which lost somewhere in the ballpark of $90 million. All this crap people want to talk about comic book distribution and Diamond, and doesn't hold a candle to like $90 million from one movie that I will link to, the sidelining of John Stewart. It's just the sidelining of John Stewart and Hawkgirl. Now, I'm not going to say that, had the movie starred John Stewart, it would have worked. Had a John Stewart movie been made, who can say what would happen? Would Jeff Johns have been involved with it? I doubt it. That's too. We're going too far down the rabbit hole there. We can't say what would have happened. I'm not even going to entertain that. What I will say, though, is that movie was linked to the sidelining of John Stewart, because I do believe that Hal Jordan resurgence was linked to the sidelining of John Stewart. But, that's what I wanted to say for now. And be sure to jump into the discussion and leave comments below, and check out ZATSWAN Multiversal Guardian in the link, and leave reviews for that and let me know what you think. And I will see you all again very soon. Take care.